We are going live. Just gonna check my phone, see if sometimes this thing starts and we don't really know. So there's like a rat. Oh, yeah, we are live. What's up, guys?
Nice.
Welcome to the Automate Your Agency show, episode number 10. This is the 10th
Number
show that
10.
we've done. Yeah, man, can you believe it? It's been 10 shows already since we started this.
I know time
Crazy,
flies
man.
fast when you're stuck at
Yeah.
home, I guess.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Now, this is going to be a super special episode. In the last 9 shows, if you guys have been following our stuff, we've been giving you guys the exact automations that we have in place at Augment Digital, right? From hiring automations, marketing metrics, how you can duplicate folders and documents and all that good stuff. And if you want to check out the previous shows, just go ahead and click the unit section of your of this group. If you don't know where that is, it's either on the left side of the screen. Well, you know what, Facebook did change its kind of like interface, so go ahead and just Google that, look for the unit section. You'll find all our past shows. Now this is going to be an amazing episode, right? Because we're going to be talking about how you can actually have work and life balance at the same time in your agency. Now, just to kind of pre-frame you guys, we got this whole concept of work and life at the same time from an author, Mike. What was his last name? Like Mike. It's kind of hard to pronounce his
Yeah,
last
I
name.
have no idea.
Mm.
But he
But he's
wrote
the
Profit
author.
First. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote Profit First, and he wrote the book Clockwork. And a lot of philosophies that he has in his book actually make sense to what we do at Agency Rocket Fuel as well. And
Yep.
so we wanted to create this training for you guys because a lot of you start your agencies, I think, because you want a better life. You want a life like a lot of the clients that we work with, they skip this whole corporate life because they wanted to have their own lifestyle, wanted to spend more time with their families. And I think that's what you want as well. And our goal with this training is to give you the roadmap, right? The roadmap to really just achieve that in your business. Now, I'm not going to wait for people to hop on here because let's face it, a lot of you're probably going to catch this on the replay. So we'll just, I'm not going to make this whole of like, I'll wait a minute for everyone to hop on. We're just going to jump straight in. But
Let's
Reynard,
do it.
does everything make sense so far?
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting how, what we read in this book is very aligned towards what we do. And like just like even if some of the things that our clients have experienced like while working with us. So it's good to see, and it's good to do like a step back a bit from the all the automations, and like just see like how this like all these automations really help you like from a really high level, right, as a business owner. So yeah, no other questions. I think we're ready to go.
Awesome, man. I'm just tagging a few people because I know I made a post a few hours ago. Some people were commenting fundamental if they wanted to watch this training. So I'm just tagging some of them here. But let me go ahead and
Nice.
share my screen. We have a presentation that we actually prepared for you guys because we want you to get the most value out of this. So I'm gonna share my screen. Renat, let me know if you see it. And before we go ahead and get started, I'm just gonna make sure that on the phone it actually shows up. So do you see my screen,
Yep,
dude?
yep, yep. I see it, bro. You
All
should be
right,
good.
awesome. I am gonna move myself to the side over here, and we should be good. Now, how to have work and life at the same time while increasing your profits, reducing your work, and retaining clients longer. And this is really the big promise that we make, right? Because we don't just want you to have that work-life balance. The reason that you got into business in the first place is so you can have that lifestyle, you can get your profits, you can reduce your work, and what comes to that is retaining clients longer as well, right? And so before we dive into the actual training itself, why are we qualified to talk about this? Why are two young lads, two guys, qualified to even talk about this? And Reynard talks about this a lot. We spent 5 years of our entire life studying a branch of engineering, right? That is just focused on systems and processes, right? And from that, we've literally made it our mission to free you, whoever is watching this show right now, from yourself, right? Anything to add on that, dude?
Yes, yeah, that's something people don't yeah, people are surprised that we were surprised that like we started our agencies at first, and we were like, hey, we're never going to use what we learned in those 5 years about processes and systems. Like that was primarily because what we learned was primarily for manufacturing, like not really like digital or anything like kind of like internet based. But yeah, like next thing we know, like a few years later after that, we're now like, you know, using what we learned, and like, you know, all these things have been really helpful to help us see things differently for our clients and even for ourselves, for our agency. It's not the usual, like, you know, just like scale, and scale is all about selling. We actually know and understand like different processes that can be used to really help, you know, fulfillment like take off. So that was an interesting plot twist, I guess, in our in our careers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And other than that too, we run an actual agency ourselves, just like you guys. And Reynard started Augment Digital on his own, right? Before we even partnered up. And it's funny because sometimes we hop on these like company calls and I ask him like, dude, how was your week? And he's like, I literally didn't do anything like in the agency. I mean, he did something, but he's not doing the actual work, right? He's focusing on building the systems, leading the team and all that good stuff. And now we have 14, we call them partners, right? We have 14 partners in the are we at 14 now, man? I'm not
Yeah,
even
we're
sure.
14. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 14. They're amazing at what they do. And, I say they, but I'm a part of it. But like, spending like hundreds and thousands of advertising for our clients each and every month, right? That gives us the breadth of experience and just clients all around the world, right? Other than that, like we, in the last 6 months, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but we've worked with, it's about 23 now, but 23 high performing agency owners in the last 6 months. And when I say high performing, what I mean by that, these aren't your rookie agencies that are, making 5K, 6K, or just starting out. These are agencies that have around 20 to 30 active clients. And some of them are even commanding $100,000 per contract, right? Per client
Crazy.
in their agency right now. Even we're blown away, right? A lot of our, it's funny, it's funny. A lot of our clients actually make more money than us, but that's okay, right? Because our goal here is to make sure that we free the owner, right? We free the owner from their actual business. And we've seen clients actually get their time back. We have one of our clients, he's spending his 40th birthday right now with his family, being able to take that vacation because he has all these systems in place. He has people in place to really take care of it for him. So, not to brag here, but just to show to you guys that, we've taken all of our experience and the experience from our clients and really just created this training to show you what really works right now. And, I mean, just some experience here. Like, we have Zach, right? He was able to reduce his work from 14-hour days to 5 to 6 hours of high level productivity. Another Zach, we have a lot of Zach clients, but like,
Right. You have three or
three. Yeah. He's feeling like a business owner with his team in place. Graydon just like, he's able to enjoy his weekends back again, right? And save like 1 or 2 hours per client, right? With all these fundamentals that we have in place, right? And just all these other like wonderful testimonials, right? Like, systems, automation, just saving 5 hours per day. But we don't want to bore you with that, right? We don't want to bore you with all these testimonials. Why should you watch this training? You should watch this training because you're not in the agency game to spend like 10, 12 hours working each and every day, right? You're
yeah.
in this training because you don't want a situation where you're at family gatherings, you're at your kids' recital or whatever, and you're having to constantly think about work. I've done that in the past. A lot of our clients, they've done that in the past where they're there, but they're not fully present. Have you ever had that, man? Like that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, for sure.
situation?
Been there for like 5 years, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so it's definitely one thing, like, not being able to spend like you're there, but you're not really quality kind of there, right? You're like your head's like wandering off to like, oh, what's the client's campaigns doing right now? Oh, why is my client sending me a message? Like, why is my Slack notifications like booming up? So yeah, those are things that definitely like, get in the way of like really enjoying what you supposedly built, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we continue, we have a lot of people on here: Matthew, Danny, Jovel, Kevin. We have Santi, Scott. Wow, there's a lot of people. Daniel, two other people here that I can't click your name, but thank you so much for joining this training. We will make sure that you get the most value out of this. So we're just going to dive straight into it. If you guys have something to take notes with, this is going to be the perfect time to do so. Let us know if you're watching live or if you're watching replay. Let us know, #replay, just so we know, right, that people are actually watching this. So what are we going to cover, right? One thing that we're going to cover is the agency paradox, right? Really people get into the space, but really the opposite thing happens and why that's happening, right? Second is how do you actually design a business to run itself, just some kind of fundamental things there. And then we're going to move on to more actionable stuff of like the steps that you can take to actually remove yourself from the business. And we've taken this from our own experience of running our own agency, of running the ARF Accelerator program, taking it from various different experts like Mike, like from the book Clockwork, and really just condensing it into 4 fundamental steps. And if you stay towards the end, we have a nice little bonus for you. If you really enjoyed this training, if you got value from this training, then we're going to give you a quick bonus just for staying till the end. So let's dive straight into it. The agency paradox. I literally just made this a few minutes ago, but I think there's an interesting paradox of like a lot of people, they market the agency life, right, Reynard? Like they
Yep.
say that you can have like freedom and like, you can just have one campaign for one niche and then you're set to have an 8-figure business. But really the opposite is true, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't really work out that way, right? Do you see that happening?
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, definitely see that. Like, and not to, there's nothing wrong with having one campaign, one niche kind of thing. Like that's the ideal goal, right? But like if you're doing that and don't have like the right, you're not preparing like the right systems in place, then it'll be hard when things stop working, kind of thing. Because like as much as there are winning campaigns in certain niches, like yeah, like they will burn out or you're gonna have to pivot and stuff like that. And it's gonna be hard to do that if you're all over the place, right? It's like the only thing, like, stringing together everything is like a one single piece of thread. And like the moment like something goes wrong, it's like it just cuts and then everything just falls apart, right? So that's one of the things we really see that in the market right now. It's like a lot of people are, there's so much advice out there to sell. We don't even teach that in the program anymore because like most of the people we work with already understands that. Like there's an abundance of people out there who needs their services. Like everyone knows that, everyone teaches that. But it's very, what will happen once you actually get clients and like actually try to scale up. um Most people can actually get to some crazy numbers. Like some of our clients reach 30, 40, 50K, like without any systems at all, just pulling things together. But then they feel, they're burned out, and then like give it 2 months and then they're back to like lower levels just because like they just couldn't handle it or like maintain it, right? So that's really that paradox that Fran's talk about, is that as much as like these selling is great, and like getting it done is like, getting out there is great. It's like you're gonna, without like having good systems, you're just gonna revert back and like undo all the great work you've been doing in like the sales, right? So yeah, that's what I think, bro. Like
Yeah.
what else you gonna add here?
Yeah, and another thing too, guys, is the competition is really just increasing. Like there are crazy offers that are being built on the fly right now. Back in
Yep.
the day, it used to be we'll guarantee you 100 leads. Just an example, right? Back in the day, it used to be we'll guarantee you 100 leads. Now the market got sophisticated, and they're like, we don't need leads, we need appointments. And so the agency space, they're like, okay, we'll guarantee you 10 to 15 appointments. And so everyone started catching up to this whole appointment game. So everyone was saying we'll guarantee you appointments. Now the market got sophisticated. Now they want actual clients coming through their door. And now we see people guaranteeing clients, right? So this whole agency, it's a business. The point that I want to make is it's a business. This isn't like one thing, you get into it, you have a campaign, you run it on Facebook and you're set for life. This is an actual business. And the moment that you take this as the reality, the faster you can actually move up the game. So we just wanted to talk about the agency paradox real quick, that it's not as easy as it sounds. Make sense? Cool. So moving on, how do you design a business, right, that can actually run on its own? So before we dive into the fundamental steps, really one thing that you guys need to remember, and this is going to be hard. I had to tell one client this, but you have to leave your ego at the door. Because the only reason why you're stuck and why you're not able to scale is because you are the center of everything. And if you are the center of everything, you are making all the decisions, you're taking all the responsibilities. You are literally the business, and it cannot scale without you. And I think, Reynard, this was an experience that you had, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Like, it's like people, I think the biggest thing is like when you're trying to scale up, it's like the biggest feeling we get like 9 times out of 10 we hear is like, what if other people can't do the work as great as I do? And that is a valid, valid thing to think about to start, at least. But like Fran said, that is a representation of ego, because you think you're, sorry to call you out, but like you think you're so cool that you're the only one who can do these things, but that's not true. Like if that were true, Apple wouldn't be like a $1 trillion company, because only Steve Jobs could make a phone or like a computer. That's not true. You can always find other people who can help you, but like, you know, there's you have to give them that guidance, as like, as what decides, as being the designer, the craftsman, right? So leave that ego at the doorstep. Like be open to like learning these things and like really seeing how you can see your business differently and like growing it, right, Fran?
Yeah, and see, here's the thing, right? There's a difference between an operator and an owner, right? And the
Mhm.
difference lies in like what you're actually doing. And what that means is you have to be a designer. As an entrepreneur, you are the visionary, you build the systems, you set the vision, you lead your team. You're not necessarily creating the cupcakes. You could create the design of the cupcakes, you can create the recipe of the cupcakes, but you're not making the cupcakes. I don't know why I use cupcakes as an analogy. I think I'm craving for cupcakes, but like I hope you get it, right? If you're running a Facebook ads agency, maybe as an entrepreneur at the start, you can create the ads, you can run the ads. But if after 20, 30 clients, you're still pushing the buttons, then you're not becoming the highest version of yourself, which is being the designer, right?
Yep.
And so before we even continue, none of this training will ever make sense or will ever work if you don't leave your ego at the door. And what's going to happen is once you implement the 4 fundamentals that we teach in this training and you actually get your time back, you're actually going to get a little bit of anxiety and you're going to start missing that feeling of like, back in the day, people actually needed me. My team needed me, and now they don't need me anymore. And that's one thing they always have to remember, right? Always be careful about that mindset, about that ego, because again, you have to let your team move forward on their own. So
Yep.
hopefully this makes sense to you guys. We have a question here. What are the best activities that can be systematized, scaled, and outsourced? Can be a great question because we're moving on to the 3 core systems, and I have a beautiful circle in front of you guys.
Dang, that
Uh,
chart looks good.
Look at that, man. That's a beautiful chart. I spent
Yep.
hours just making that.
I'm a paint.
Yeah.
Paint to make this.
So you might be wondering, okay, now you know that you need to leave your ego at the door and you needed to be a designer. What do you actually need to design? In our program, in the clients that we take on, we tell them that you only need to design 3 core systems: a system to acquire clients, a system to deliver results for your clients, and a system to attract talent so that they can run your systems. And this is
Yep.
such a simplified way of looking at systems because everybody knows, everybody and their grandmother knows they need systems, but when you ask them what systems do you actually need, they're blank. They don't know.
Yeah.
And so we've given you the answer. These are the only 3 systems you need. It can be an agency, it can be a local business, whatever it is. These are the systems that you need to have in place, right? So, what are the best client acquisition activities that can be systematized, scaled, and outsourced? Whatever works for you. Now, for us, we'll share about our experience, and if anyone on here, you can leave a comment on the actual training. But for us, we have 2 main ways of getting clients for our agency and for the program. One is really organic marketing, like organic outreach, and we've actually systematized that like over the last few months here. We put out a lot of content. We have our copywriters create content weekly. We have a sales specialist that goes through Messenger and actually messages people using a script, and it's systematized. When you say system, it's not just automation, right? It can also be delegation, right? And so organic is one way if you actually have the bandwidth to do that. But paid advertising as well is a good system to just systematize and scale out, right? Because you're still acquiring clients. Any thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, so that's it really. Like there's two ways. Either you earn it, which is organic, and then there's paid. And there's so many ways to kill that cat. Like there's like you can do like prospecting the way Fran said, like Messenger, Facebook, or you can use LinkedIn. Like there's so much information out there, like building systems in terms of outreach, booking like intro calls and things like that. That's already at this point that's common knowledge, like what kind of what kind of systems you can build there. But those are definitely things that can be systematized. Like and Fran said, it's not only about automation, but it's also like having it on paper and like knowing like what you're gonna do. Because then if something breaks or something doesn't give you what you want, then it's all about tweaking it rather than being the doer, being the operator, as Fran said, and like having to go in there, change the actual messages, like jump in and message 10 new different people. So as the owner, you shouldn't be doing that. That's what the operator should be doing, at least over time. But you should be designing, right, the system, and that's not just like an automation. That's like, what's the workflow around it, right? So that's basically what how we like to see things.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Liam. And if you guys have any other questions, let us know in the chat. We'll make sure to get that answered on this actual live. Now, moving forward, there are 3 core systems that you as an entrepreneur, you need to design, right? And so you might be thinking, okay, this is great. I know I need a system to acquire clients, deliver results, attract talent. What is that actual system? And the answer to that actually lies in here, not in my head, in your head, right? We we
In
tell our
France
clients,
team.
all right, guys. So I'm in Bakersfield right now. If you want the system, just come. But anyway, you don't need to find a system out there, because whatever it is that you're doing right now, if you have a business, if you have clients, it's actually working. And what we tell our the people that we help, the systems are in you. We just need to extract that, because there are certain ways of doing things that are unique to you. There are certain ways of you acquiring clients. There are certain ways of you delivering results. And if you've hired people in the past, there's a certain way to attract talent. But just to give you that synergy, right? The reason that we only need 3 core systems is because without an acquisition system, there are no clients to serve.
Yep.
Without a delivery system, we can't retain these clients because they're never going to get the results. And without a system, a talent acquisition system, you as the owner, you're always going to be stuck there. And so the reason that we're showing you this slide is because it narrows down your focus on what you need to really build. Hopefully this makes sense. Let us know, guys, in the comments below if this makes sense, if the 3 core systems make sense, and we'll move on to the next slide. But bro, anything you want to add on this this beautiful circle over here?
No, it's perfect. Like, yeah, that's really it. Like, people sometimes systems can feel like a very overwhelming thing, but it's very, this is it. Like, this is the core 3 that you just need to nail down. And even the attracting talent part, like, I'm sure there's some people watching this training and they're like, I've never hired a single person in my life, kind of thing. But what you don't what you don't see yet, and that's what we help our clients do in the program, is that you do have these systems and they're hidden in how you fulfill, right? Because how you fulfill is how you're going to attract talent from a certain, in a sense. What I mean by that is, like, you should be using your fulfillment systems, which is like the systems to deliver results, as a basis of how you attract talent, because you want to attract talent that can fit what you need to deliver, results for your clients, right? So it's just about understanding that and extracting that out of you, so you can see how everything kind of fits together, right? So nothing to add, bro. This is pretty good. Like, these 3 systems, it's like most people try to overcomplicate it, but this is really it, right? This is like what you just got to start with.
Yeah. So I want to boost up the engagement real quick. Let us know in the comments below which of these 3 core systems you feel like you're lacking in your business right now. Let us know if it's a system to acquire, a system to deliver, a system to attract. And so we'll try to see if our team can send you some relevant training. But let us know in the comments below so we can we can hook you up. So moving on. Let's move on to the 4 fundamental steps. Now you understand that you need to leave your ego at the door. You need to design these 3 systems, right? How do you actually go about designing a business that can run on its own? So this is actual implementation stuff, right? We're not going to show you like, here's what you do, here's what not to do. We're actually going to give you the exact roadmap that we took, that our clients have been taking. And, hopefully you can take it as well and implement it on your own. The first fundamental thing, and me and Rainer have done this, is to set your 2 or 4 week vacation deadline, right?
Ooh.
Actually forcing yourself to say, maybe 12 months from now, maybe a year from now, or 18 months from now, I'm going to take a 2 or 4 week vacation. And the reason that it's important to do this is because, humans, we're hardwired to meet deadlines, right? And unless you put yourself in that box, you're never going to put on that designer hat. Because the moment you know that, oh my God, I actually need to take a vacation a year from now, you start thinking, how do I remove myself? Like, how do I actually make that happen? And when I say vacation, Mike talks about this, right? It's when you actually disconnect from anything. No email, nothing related to work. You spend time with your family, do whatever you want, and really commit to this. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, bro. It's like this. It's crazy to think about for most people. Like, how can you ever do that? But that's the point. So if you're watching this training, like, I can't leave my business because I'm the one running everything. that's the point. Like that's what we want you to feel like, that like first that it's, it's a crazy idea, but like just something to realize, like so many people, other people are able to do it, right? And that you can really, if you set your mind to it, then you put yourself in a position where you're thinking like, okay, if I'm gone for 2 to 4 weeks from my business, what has to be in place for it to run without me? So like Fran said, it just forces you to be in a position where how can I really build a business in a way that allows me to achieve this goal, right? And like, this really helps you realign and make sure your priorities are straight. So it's hard to think about, but try it out and like, let it sink in and see how it changes your mindset, slowly but surely over time.
For some of you, it's going to be nighttime. So maybe after this training, you can spend some time actually sitting down and thinking, how can my business look like if I actually took this 2 to 4 week vacation? And if you
Yep.
really want to commit to this, right? Some people, they go as far as booking flights, like booking flights 12, 18 months out. I know it's a long time, right?
Mhm.
I'm not even sure some airlines allow that, but you
Like
can book a
open at this
hotel,
point. Yeah.
right? Maybe not this at this point, but finding a way to really commit yourself to this, right? Reynard, I'm sure, and I'm sure you want to share, but you have kind of like a vacation deadline. I have a vacation deadline. I am getting married next year, so that's kind of like
Woohoo.
my deadline for me. Yeah, and
Nice.
so for you, man, like what's that looking like for you?
I think, yeah, around 18 months from when we started I think was my time. So I think around later next year maybe, is what I'm aiming for. So yeah, it's
Okay,
like
cool.
it's interesting how, like you said, I am pulled out of our agency, but like 90% of my time now is in, building agency Rocket Fuel. So like I'm just starting the timer from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. And so you might be thinking, okay, I have a 2 to 4 week vacation deadline. Now you really need to commit to building systems. We've already shown you the 3 core systems that you need to get in place, right? So it's pretty easy, right? 3 core systems, you set that 2 to 4 week deadline. Now moving forward, second step is define your zone of genius and declare the queen bee role. Right now, you can take the queen bee role. I'll take the zone of genius, but
Sure.
the whole concept of a zone of genius is really taken from I think it was Brian Hendricks from The Big Leap. And the zone of genius is where you actually enjoy doing work in your business and where you're the most kind of like alive, right? So do you enjoy doing sales? Do you enjoy doing fulfillment strategy? Or do you just enjoy leading and being with people? A lot of you don't really take the time to figure out like what your zone of genius is. What are you the most capable of in your business, right? You might be great at Facebook ads, you might be great at like clicking buttons, but is that your zone of genius? And the reason that we want you to define that is because with the successful agencies that we've worked with, they are relentless at saying no to everything else except their zone of genius. And
Yep.
unless you get clear on what that is for you, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be fulfillment, it can be sales, it can be strategy, whatever it is, something where you feel alive, where you feel like you're the most competent in that. You focus on only that and you remove everything else. Hopefully that makes
Gotcha.
sense, right?
Yeah, I would I'll add to that, bro. Like, how do you? I'm sure some people would be wondering, like, how do you find that? Like, how do you, what's the techniques to like really nail this down for yourself and like
Yeah,
find
I
that zone
mean,
of genius?
yeah, well, one is really just asking, like, what do you enjoy doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
one thing for me is like, why did you start an agency in the first place? Like, I know for
Yep.
a lot of you, it's for the money, but I'm sure there was something else outside of that, right? Maybe it's the joy of actually closing deals. Maybe it's the joy of actually seeing a campaign run or the joy of allowing your creativity to spark. And the
Yep.
one word that stands out from this is joy. It's not money, it's not scale, it's what you enjoy doing. Because what's the point of having $1 million business when you hate what you do? You know,
Yep.
right? Isn't that the whole point of why we're doing this, right? We're doing this so we can spend more time with our families and we can actually enjoy the life that we have. So, what gives you joy is the one thing, right? So, that's kind of like a quick indicator to know what your zone of genius is. Hopefully, that makes
Nice.
sense.
Yep. Yep. Definitely does. Yeah. And so for the queen bee role, like this again, a concept we took out of Mike's book, Content and Clockwork. But basically it's like finding what's the one activity in your business that differentiates yourself from the rest and allows you to really succeed. Right. So this is something we don't even really cover in the RF accelerator because like Fran said, like most people don't think about the zone of genius or the queen bee role because they're so drowned in like 90, like all the work they're already currently doing. it's so hard to step back and think and do these things if you don't even have the time to finish your campaigns, kind of thing, right? It's this chicken and egg scenario. But like how we like to approach this, let's 90 a lot of whenever we work with agencies, like there's so much stuff that you do that can definitely be either automated or delegated out, right? And once we nail that down, that allows you to really think about like, okay, how can I even build more new systems, or like what is really my zone of genius, right? Because you can't just like, one day just drop all your clients and you're like, hey guys, like you tell your 10 clients like, hey guys, I'm gonna define my zone of genius today. Like, screw all your campaigns. I don't gonna respond to any of your messages, right? So it doesn't work that way. So that's why we're very focused on like getting some quick wins, getting some systems down really quickly in like 10 weeks. But once you nail that down, like, the next question is, when you have the time to think, is like, what's the one activity in my agency that really grows it? Like if I don't do it, like it stops growing. And like, what is that, how is that different from everyone else? Right. So let's give you an example with our agency, Augment Digital. We primarily serve e-commerce businesses, right? And one of the things we realized, and this is something we even realized like after the fact, like we didn't design for it. We saw it as we looked back at what we do and how we do things different and what our clients say about us. Um, I would say the one thing that we do really well is just like consistent creative production, right? And again, we heard that from our clients. We heard that from like just realizing what we do is because as long as we continue to create creatives and have a system, we're able to launch new things for our clients and like find new things to work. And like the machine just churns. And now we have an entire system called AdFlux. I think Fran, you made a post about it a few days ago.
Yeah.
Now like our creatives as well have become templates for anyone to use, and they're backed by data, right? So that's our queen bee role, because like as long as we protect that, as long as we protect that idea of like, as long as we produce creatives well and do it right, our agency will continue to grow, right? So that's kind of the queen bee role. So for you guys, like something to think about, it's like, what is that one activity in my business that really, is the reason why it grows? Is it your communication with your clients? Is it how you run your campaigns? Is it because you report so well? What is that one thing that creates that growth loop for your business, right? So declaring that and really understanding that is important, because then you should be building systems around the idea that, you should be building systems around that role or that function to make sure everything else is like kind of automated, delegated, and you can find time to really build that role and make sure it's thriving and, doing really well. So that's like the queen bee role. Fran, do you have anything else to add on this step number two?
Yeah, just to dial it home, the reason that we call it a queen bee role, and dude, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, if you think of a beehive, right? You have all these little bees, and then you have the queen bee, and the entire hive, they know that the one thing that they need to do every single day, right, is to like for the queen to lay eggs, right? Was that it, right?
I think
Because
so.
if the queen, if the queen continues to lay eggs, bees, they come to life and they're able to create the honey. But if you take out the queen's ability to lay eggs, then the entire system ceases to exist. And so they do
Yep.
everything in their capacity to protect the queen bee. They're not protecting one specific queen bee. They're protecting the role of that queen bee. The queen bee can
Yep.
die, and then they'll just make a new queen bee, but they're protecting the role of that queen bee. And so the reason that we want to declare this in your business is because, like what Reynard said, it's the growth loop, right? For Augment Digital, it's the creatives that they create, because the more profitable creatives that you make, the more clients, our money, the more money our clients make, and the more money we make, right? For Agency Rocket Fuel, the queen bee role is our fanatical support, because we've realized that if we give our clients the best support, they bring us other clients, because they're so like they're just amazed by their experience. And so it's the growth loop for our business. And so really declaring that in your business, what the queen bee role is, and figuring out what your zone of genius is, it allows you to really gain clarity on what you need to focus on and systematize. So hopefully that makes sense. We have Richard here, by the way, who was our number one fan. Now he's like our number 10 fan because he hasn't been joining us. But I'm just kidding. But he's asking about the templates, right? So we did make a post about AdFlux. Are the templates in AI or Canva? Pretty
Yeah,
different.
it's in AI and PSD and even After Effects, because like that's what we use. So most of them, like all our creatives, are custom built for our clients. So we don't use any kind of templates. So yeah, it's all in AI PSD, like whatever format our team used to create it. But you should be able to replicate it because we also have on the pages you'll see like there's preview versions of it where you can really see like how what elements do we add and so forth. So you should see it there.
Gotcha. You sent a sad face and hashtag out. But anyway, moving on, guys. So number one, set your 2 to 4 week vacation deadline. Really force yourself. Number two, define your zone of genius. Declare the queen bee role. If you're just watching live right now, you can just go and watch the replay. But really talking about the 4 fundamental steps to have a business that balances both work and life, so you can have more profits, retain clients longer, and work less. Step number three for this entire training is really evolve, right? Evolve from doing, delegating, and designing. And we'll give you some specifics here. But naturally, when you start your agency, you're doing everything, right? You're doing the invoicing, you're doing the client acquisition, you're doing the fulfillment, you're doing the hiring, and it's okay, right? It's natural for you to do
Yep.
everything. But the danger lies if you stay at that doing stage forever, right? You must learn to let go. If you remember the previous slides, leaving your ego at the door. Okay. Now, step number two of this whole, step B is don't be a task rabbit. And here's the issue, right? When entrepreneurs are doing everything, they naturally gravitate towards hiring people out. And that's the right thing to do, right? You hire people out. But the mistake usually happens when you become a task rabbit. And what that means is you delegate out the task, but not necessarily the decision making that
Yep.
comes with the task. And you allow people, and what that means, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you delegate out, I delegate out invoicing to Reynard and say, hey, Reynard, I want you to do the invoicing. Reynard comes to me and says, hey, Fran, do I use like this format? Like what do I put here? And how I'm having to tell Reynard, no, Reynard, you have to do this, this, and that. That's task rabbiting, right? Reynard's doing it, but I'm deciding for him. Now, what you want to do is you want to delegate out the task and the decision making. And so what I would say is, hey, Reynard, it's I'm going to delegate out invoicing to you, and it's important that we invoice our clients on time, because if we don't invoice on time, we don't get cash to the business. But at the same
Yep.
time, I want to delegate out the responsibility, right? So your main goal is just to make sure we invoice on time. Whatever challenges you face, just fix that, right? You have the responsibility to do it. Now, it takes a lot of humility to do that, because you need to allow your people to make mistakes. They need to make
Yeah.
mistakes. It's the only way they'll learn. If you keep, chiming in, they're never going to learn. And I think, Rena, you have a lot of things to just kind of add to that.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's one of the biggest things I made the mistake of, like with the agency starting off. It's like, I'm very systematic. So I build things down to the letter, like what to do and stuff like that. And because of that, I didn't really allow the team to make their own mistakes and build something of their own. Because you can't build ownership if you're the one giving everything, right? Ownership comes from people like just building it on their own. So that's why delegating that decision making is so important, even if they make mistakes, because you want your people to be able to do that over time. It's funny how, like, I started out, I started out by doing this, giving them tasks, or telling them everything that they need to do, making the decisions for them, and then 6 months down the line, I'm complaining like, "Hey, why is everyone on the team like not? They're not figuring things out on their own, right? Not realizing that it was just like a function of what I did, right? Like it was my fault why everyone was thinking like that. So we've changed that since then, and we're now in a position where, like Fran said, I barely touch anything like operational in the agency. But yeah, so it really starts with that idea that you gotta allow your team to make mistakes and make decisions, and what you just have to give them are the guidelines to make those decisions. Like, you're not gonna tell them, hey, no, decide this other thing, right? You're gonna have to tell them, hey, given what you know about our direction, our vision, like, this is the outcome we want to achieve for this task, do you think you made the right decision? If they say yes, if they say no, you're like, okay, how can we change it? What other decisions should we made in the future? So you allow them to make that decision themselves instead of like saying, hey, you got to do this instead, right? So they come to realize and they can take ownership of of what gets done, right? So yeah, it's like this is a very big, like, this was a very big revelation for me a few, like, a year ago or so, that yeah, we gotta start delegating decision making and not just the task, right? But of course, you gotta start somewhere. So start with the task so people get acquainted with it, and then of course over time you gotta set that expectation that, hey, you're free to make decisions as you need to make sure the task gets done.
Absolutely, man. And
Mhm.
a common pitfall that people say is that, it's much faster if I do it, Fran, you know. And
Yeah.
it might be. It actually is faster if you do it. But do you want to be doing it forever? And the answer is no, right? It's going to be slow for people like to start with a task, but that's where the humility and the patience comes in if you actually want to have a business that can run without you. Right? And so really the key thing here is you don't just delegate out the task, you delegate out the decision making that comes with the task. Hopefully that drives home for a lot of people, and we move on from evolving from delegating and now actually becoming a designer, right? And
Yep.
so when you design, this is where you really take that systems thinking mindset and really just outline everything that you do from A to Z. This is boring work, I'll tell you. Like, this is so boring because you're actually literally writing down every single thing that you do, from lead
Yep.
generation to sales to fulfillment to offboarding, whatever, A to Z. But it's the work that is necessary for you to take that 2 to 4 week vacation that we just talked about on the first step, right? And this is what we tell all our clients to do, right? They literally write down everything from A to Z. And once you extract that, I promise you, 100%, if you're able to do this, I'll even pay you $100 if you don't feel this way. You get a sense of fulfillment and clarity that comes out of it. Because all of these processes and systems, they've been stuck in your head for the longest time and they need to come out. And so this is what we mean by designing. Right?
Yep.
Designing doesn't mean the software, it doesn't mean the sys like whatever automation that you have in place. It's actually putting it onto paper. Anything to add to that, bro?
Yep. Yeah, yeah, for sure. That should be it. I think that you hit a big point, but like it's not about software. Most people think like when you do a system, it's always like, hey, it's Zapier and stuff like that. Oh, that's one part. Automation is definitely one part. It's a big part. When we say system, it's really the thinking and like the workflow, right? And workflow is separate from any software or whatever it is. Like, of course, you're gonna have to take it into account, but the thought process is how is information flowing, how is work flowing, like how is one thing being done and the other thing receiving that work, and then the next thing, like how is that all put together. So that is what designing is, because your goal as the business owner is not to be like Fran said, like not to jump in and like do the tweaks and things like that. Your excuse me, your goal is like if you have a system, a workflow, it creates an outcome like a success, a launch campaign, and it, let's say your team does it and it, or you do it even and it doesn't work. You shouldn't be like, hey, what did I do wrong, what was wrong with Facebook or things like that, like whatever it is. You should be thinking in terms of like what was wrong with the design of my workflow that led to that failed outcome. So then now you can think like, okay, can I adjust the design so it creates a new outcome that probably will make um like a more likely, success, right? So now you think differently because you're not thinking about how can I make the next week. You're not thinking like, oh, I'm gonna just do that, I'm gonna live with this and change it and edit it. You're thinking about how can I update my system, the workflow, so it creates a new outcome, right? So now you can see how you're more of a designer. You're not in there like, building stuff. You're outside and you're taking a look and like, oh, I gotta switch that task, switch this to make sure it creates a different outcome, right? So that the next time you do it differently. Maybe you hit that outcome and you're gonna do it again and again and again, right? So that's what designing really means.
Love that, man. So let's just close with
Nice.
that. We'll move on to our fourth step, which is amazing because Richard's asking, do you find yourself writing it or using loom.com, the videos to walk them through the process? And it's fantastic that you asked that question because that's literally our fourth step, right?
Mm-hmm.
After you've declared your the vacation deadline, what the second step was to define your zone of genius, declaring your queen bee role. You understand the evolution from do, delegate, and design. Now it's time to capture your systems through progressive documentation. And I think Richard saw our slides because he knows exactly what the next step is. I don't know, man. Like
Back to number
it's just
one.
interesting. Yeah, he's back at number one. You're the number one fan now. But the fourth step is once you've outlined your systems from A to Z, you're in that designer mindset. It's trying to capture all those systems, right? You screen cap. Literally, what we do is we screen capture our processes, right? But what's the most important out of this is, let's say you have a process, say invoicing. I've been using invoicing. I'll use it again, but it can be literally any process. You want to screen capture. You can use Loom to video that process, and then you give that process to another person. But, and we got this again from Mike, and we teach this to some of our clients, right? Whoever you delegate it out to, let that person screen capture themselves, doing the process as if they are teaching another person. I want you to get that. You're not just delegating out the process, you're having them do it, video it, and as if they're teaching someone. And why is that, right? We don't just want them doing, we want them to truly understand and learn what they're doing and really take responsibility of that decision making, right? Anything to add on that, man, before we kind of just move on here?
No, for sure. Like it's, like capturing your systems is really as simple as doing as recording. Most people think like it's gonna be, oh, I have to, do the task and then spend like another hour like writing it down. No, like all we need really is to capture it, and then again, like make it clear for your team that this is what you gotta do, and like, make it your own. Like tell your team like to make it their own, and then of course like have them try to do a loom as well, and like think about it as teaching another person, because like that's when you really synthesize what you learn, when you're able to teach it to other people, right? But towards the end, it's like we still have it written. So after we've gone through a few iterations of like the loom maybe, or like even the first one, we're like, this is pretty good, this pretty much captures our our process. We then like have it handed off to one of our team members, who does our documentation, and if you have the time to do this, then that's great. To put on to make it a written version, because it's so much easier to update written like SOPs rather than SOPs that are videos. Because say you have a 20-minute video and you update one thing, you gotta redo the 20-minute video, right? Unlike if you have a document, you can just scroll down to that step and then like swap it out or change a screenshot or something, right? So that's kind of like why we still like doing written documentation. But if you're still getting started, start with looms, because you get a different insight from like trying to think about like when you do your daily work and you're actually talking through it and you're explaining what you do, you'll actually start seeing like, hey, this is actually not the best way to do it, or like, hey, I should probably change up how I do this because it's very inefficient, right? So you catch yourself because now you're forced to kind of teach someone else to do it, and you're like, okay, this isn't really the best way. So there's a lot of insights to be taken from progressive documentation. It's one of the core parts of our programs, because like you just there's a lot of uncovered, everything's in your head, and this helps you get it out of there, right? So
Yeah. And that's the reason why it's progressive documentation, because it's actually hard to sit down and shoot loom videos. So rather than forcing yourself to do it, just do it whenever you're actually executing on the task. An example is, I had to shoot a loom video of a new onboarding process that we had. So instead of me having to find time in my calendar, I just did it the moment I had to onboard a client. All right, I just shoot loom and I went through the entire process and just talked of what I did, right? Now, if you guys are enjoying this training so far, step C here, well, part C of number 4 is really just to find someone or company to turn your process videos into written standard operating procedures. Because like what Reynard said, while you have a 20-30 minute loom, it's great. But if you need to edit it, you have to like shoot the loom video again. So that's actually one of the things that we do for some of our RF Accelerator clients. If that's something that's interesting to you guys, reach out to me or Reynard and we can talk more about that. But really, those are the 4 fundamental steps, right? If you really want to have a business that can run without you so that you can have work and life balance at the same time, first thing that you need to do, set your 2 to 4 week vacation deadline, 12 to 18 months ahead of time. And if you really want to commit to that, book something. Book a ticket, book a hotel, book a travel, whatever, and just set that onto your calendar, because that forces you to be in that designer mindset. Second, define your zone of genius and declare the queen bee role. Right? We talked about that in some part of in this training over here. And it's really just deciding what are you the best at, and what is the growth loop of your business, and really just focusing on just building that and growing that. Third is evolving from doing, delegating, and designing. And if you want a refresher of what are the systems that you need to design, go towards the beginning part of this training video. We'll show you the 3 core systems, right? A system to acquire clients, a system to deliver results, and a system to acquire talent. Those are the only 3 systems that you need to be thinking about as an entrepreneur. And again, you just want to outline whatever it is that you do and shoot those process videos. Because again, you've been doing this for the longest time. You know exactly what you need to do. And fourth, capture systems through progressive documentation. Shoot a loom video of you doing the actual task. Send that to someone. Delegate out not just the task, but the decision-making of that task. And you can go a step further by asking your team member, hey, here's the process video. Watch it. I want you to shoot another Loom video of you actually going through the process to make sure that they truly understand and they take that in. And once you put it all together, you leave your ego at the door, you take these 4 fundamental steps and you build those 3 core systems. Now you have the roadmap to actually build a system that can run without you. Any last words, man, before we kind of hop off here?
No, that should be it. That's it. It's as simple as that. Like, people always ask us, how do you get started? And what are the foundations? This is it. Like, all in this I think 45-minute training or so. You just need 4 steps. Start here. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't look at Zapier. Don't even look at our other automation shows, maybe. Like, just like, don't look at the unit section. Watch this video. Really understand like what you gotta nail down to start. And then get it going. Like, 4 steps are right in front of you. Execute them and let us know. Let Fran or me know, like, if you've done it and like how you feel doing it. Right after. Yeah, that should be good, bro.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, we can stay on for the next 5 minutes here. We did have a couple questions before this, which I think we've answered. Richard asking, for once he was a step ahead. So yeah, for once you're a step ahead with all our stuff. But if you guys don't have any other questions, just let us know. But then we have a special bonus for you guys if you've actually reached the end of this training. And again, this isn't a pitch. I hate it, right? When I watch a VSL and there's a pitch at the end, right? This isn't a pitch, but this is an offer. If you've watched this training, then it shows that you're willing to put in the work to free yourself from your business. And just as a way of saying thank you, we're willing to hop in a 25-minute, just a coaching session with you to give you actionable insights on what you could implement into your actual business that is custom to you. It's going to be free. I'm never going to pitch you on the call, and you can take it from one of the people that we've served. You really helped me see what I needed to fix, and I really appreciate that, right? He said not much people have an actual strategy session. Most just sell, but he actually came away with actionable stuff. And so if you guys just found value from this, from this 45-minute training, then, let me know. Let me know if you want to book that call. Just message me and then we'll hop on a 25-minute coaching session and we'll make it all about you. No pitch guarantee. And there's one question here. Does number 1 get a t-shirt to wear? Well, yes, we can, right? We can send Richard a t-shirt. We'll find a design.
For you, Richard.
Just for Richard. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it. Sign me up for the call. All right. So we have Richard taking the call. If you guys want this call, just let me know. That's it for training day. I hope you really got value from this. I hope you take this to heart. And we're hoping to see your Instagram photos 12 to 18 months from now as you take that 2 to 4 week vacation. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening ahead of you. And wherever you are in the world, maybe it's good morning, good afternoon, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Yep. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.